And so I think that there's a lot more attention has to be paid towards how we're having these public conversations in our art and in our artists.
Well,
Because
USAID made sure to pay off some people, so we got the right public
that's right.
conversations.
Well, and okay, so I'll get on my soapbox about USAID.
God, here we go.
Here we go. All right,
Here's the shiller.
let me start shilling.
The good old shiller.
Look,
I got to get Mike Benz in here with you just to throw up.
yeah, let's do it.
That'd
I
be
would be
great.
in. Yeah, because I think he and I might. I think he and I might agree on more
No,
things.
in all seriousness, like you guys will. You're a reasonable dude.
Yeah, I think that I think we would agree on the problem. And look,
Yep.
every country needs some form of soft power, some
It is a
form
reality.
of
Yes.
diplomacy, and then also so there's two angles on this for me. Like, one, I want people in other countries to get to know Americans that are there to help them out instead of there to suppress them in any
Right.
way. Like, I prefer that as an American who wants to be seen well in the world. And I think it's also partially our responsibility when we're benefiting so much for a globalized world. And then here's my cynical answer to it. It's cheaper to do international development than it is to fight a pandemic or a war that comes out of that area that we could have helped out with. It's just cheaper.
Yes. No, that theory is in theory 100% right. As you well know, and you and I agree on this. This is why I like you, because like you're a moderate guy on a lot of things, and you'll say stuff that gets some people riled up, but it's like it's a very moderate type opinion. It's like you can use soft power to do things, for example, to combat the well-documented soft power that, I don't know, China does with Belt and Road, as you've already laid out around the world. When you then use that and it gets like a shrub that's way out of control, and you use it for things that have nothing to do with soft power and actually having the opposite effect while wasting our tax dollars, as we saw with all the waste in USAID, and when other organizations like a CIA can use USAID as like a shell company to not have to report things that also aren't having an effect of soft power, that's where people get pissed, and where I get pissed, and we have every right to be. What Mike Benz is saying, and he's like in a really tough spot, is that he's the one who's been screaming at the top of his lungs for a decade about this problem and yelling, look at it, look at it, look at it. And then all the people finally get on it. And they're like, great, burn it all down. He's like,
Yeah,
no.
no.
And then they're like, oh, you must be controlled opposition. He's like, no, I'm just saying I want this to be smart. Like, again, like, we're here. Let's not go here. Let's get it here.
Right.
And
I mean, to create an effective soft power apparatus is really difficult because international development is really difficult.
Right.
There are some astounding projects that have like done really great things in countries, and again, we don't hear about them. We hear about the fuck ups. We hear about the funds for USAID being frittered away on bullshit and nonsense that doesn't benefit the U.S. and also doesn't benefit other countries, or worst case, it being used on behalf of the clandestine services for whatever reason. But I also put that on them, right?
Yeah.
Like USAID post-Reagan became a pool of wealth that people could try and gain funds from. After Reagan, it became a pool of wealth that people would be able to write contracts from, get funded by USAID to do a project on the ground somewhere. And part of the thinking of that was, well, if it's an indigenous NGO and we can pay them, they're going to be able to do that job better because they know the area and they're being paid at a lower rate. We don't have to send, some dude from Texas over to Azerbaijan to like do stuff.
Right.
And so it seemed like a really good idea, but then you had these larger international development companies which made hay off of getting all of these government contracts. And then you had agencies that didn't mean the world terribly well jumping in on the action too. But again, there's a problem with the transparency here. We didn't know and we don't know where all of the funds are going, and apparently a lot is unaccounted for. And because of that, it opens the door for an enormous amount of mistrust in, I would say, a beneficial organization. I was at a conference the last 2 days. At
where?
deep state.
Where?
At the Council on Foreign Relations.
You were at a Council on Foreign Relations conference.
That's right. That's why I have this tie on.
You're like a guy just.
As soon as I get Bilderberg Group, I've got the hat trick, or Davos. Then
do you work for Teal?
No.
You sure?
Yeah, I should.
You should.
He's so veiny and shiny. Shout out to Peter Thiel.
Big pause. Big pause there. All right. Continue with your desecration of events from the last 2 days.
Right. So I was at a conference. It's for students and just mid-career people who work overseas. So it's a lot of people studying international relations and conflict resolution from Georgetown. There was like a random high schooler there, so good on him. But anyway, I was talking with some people who, they stood up and they're like, well, hey, I, was a part of USAID. I think one lady was working in Madagascar trying to help with like textile production. And she's like, I just don't have a job now. And I also have this remarkably specialized set of skills. Like I know about trying to make the textile market in Madagascar better. And I speak that language and I specifically know this area. Like I was doing good work there until the rug got pulled out from under me. There are people who are scrambling right now to be like, well, look, I came into this. I wanted to do something noble. And now everything is being thrown out with the bathwater. And not only did the noble work that I was really passionate about that was incredibly costly for me to do. Like, I'm sorry, I spent 2.5 years as a Peace Corps volunteer, and it's difficult to just go overseas and uproot your entire life, and specifically to do that just because you actually believe that you can make something slightly better and that it's a worthy task to do. Like, that is the mentality of aid workers, and I think it's bullshit that they're being
the good ones
all maligned. Yeah, and it is the good ones, and it's just really difficult work, and they clearly care about solving really hard problems, and so to see it all maligned is really disheartening because, I want to believe that the United States really has these high-minded ideals that we are capable of being generous and powerful at the same time.
Well, that's where the cynics will come in, and I'll hear them when they come in. When you use a word like generosity, referring to an entity that's trying to impose power around the world.
Right.
To be clear, Peace Corps is a different kind of thing because, like, that's literally like, my cousin went and did it for 2 years in Guinea and had to get pulled back because of the pandemic and has been here ever since. But, like, you're going and you're building wells in places that literally don't have running water, or you are building a school in a place that doesn't have any education for their kids. Like, that's a great thing. When you're talking about the stuff where there's actually real soft power being used, like a lot of money changing hands to specifically build up industries that are going to economically incentivize some country that's going to help the United States interests in this area of the world because now that country having this thing and da-da-da-da-da. When you're talking about that, I don't even need generosity. I need oversight and common sense.
Completely agree.
That's what I need.
That's right.
And so I'm like, what China's doing to Africa is a disgrace because it's China-centric. They're like, well, I don't give a fuck about that. They're like, they're building some nice things.
Right.
So it's like on the surface, it's like, oh, thanks for doing that. But now they fucking own them because, like we said earlier, they're building stuff they know that these countries can't pay back. So now they're going to be able to say, we do whatever we want here. I would rather us go in and do some of those things and maybe actually, I don't know, try to be a little Freedom America and build it in a more economically advantageous way. So it's not like, yo, we own you.
Right.
But it could be like, hey, there's certain things here where we would love to have your support on that. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.